Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having yourselves a fantastic ending to your day and a great work week out there so far. Got you an update on this big severe weather event coming up for Friday. This could be significant, not just for a small area, but for a very large region of the country. Right now, I'm favoring damaging winds to being the biggest threat with this as far as a widespread area impacted. But you're going to have tornadoes with this too. And you're going to have some hail. But I really think damaging winds is the biggest threat. Tornadoes is right there beside it. And then hail is probably a good bit further down. But I'm telling you, this is going to be a big time weather event that's going to affect a lot of people. And we need to figure this out. And I can tell you in this video, we got you some good information. We're in range of some short range models, and I'm going to take a look at the NAM, which for people who've been viewing for a while know I don't look at the NAM much, but I actually like the way the latest NAM is unfolding the way that these storms can evolve. So we're going to talk about that in the video. We're going to talk about what's working into this setup and then how these storms could materialize across a large portion of the country. So with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. I try to pump out 2 videos a day, try to keep you guys updated as much as possible. I put in, certainly a lot of time and work for this. So I really appreciate the support and people tuning in and subscribing, liking the video. It goes far. It helps out a lot, and I really appreciate you guys supporting my passion. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, you guys know the deal. Please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Lastly, we'll mention this. I try to do this once or twice a week, but I am an ambassador for the WeatherFlow-Tempest. And what that is, it's a weather station. And I just sold my first one. Not sure who bought it under my promo code of Mitch West Weather, but whoever did it, I really appreciate you guys. It meant the world clicking on the site and seeing that somebody actually purchased the station using something that, I promoted. So I really appreciate people, doing that. I understand it's like a $280, $300 weather station. There's cheaper weather stations out there, but what separates this weather station from others is it's a learning machine. It actually learns, and I keep hounding this part of it because I think it's awesome. It actually learns your backyard, your front yard, wherever you're sitting this thing, and eventually it will learn it enough to create a forecast for it, like a 7-day forecast. It's pretty incredible. It measures rain in a different way, and it measures wind in a totally different way. And if you have something like a building or something blocking one area of the weather station, it will account for that and adjust. And all these are connected into a database, and it's a pretty awesome weather station. And if you go on their site, there's hundreds, thousands of reviews that tell you that this is a great weather station, and I've had it for 2 months, and it is. So the link is in the description below the video, and the promo code Mitch West Weather. Use that and you get 10% off, so check that out. With that being said, let's get rolling with the weather. Water vapor loop, guys, here it comes. Potential deadly spinning around out here, fully beginning to enter the west coast now. This will continue, and we'll kind of get this thing going right here. This will continue to dig down here, and eventually some kind of low pressure is going to eject like this and move in this general direction. It might move somewhat like this, but there's going to be a low pressure somewhere in here, and you're going to have a lot of severe weather potential in this entire area right into here, all the way up into Iowa. I know that's kind of everywhere, but a lot of strong winds in this entire, in this entire area also. Okay, so a lot going on. I know that's very sloppy, but kind of just want to get you to understand what's going on. This is the system associated with this upper trough, and what's going to happen is going to dig down here, surface low will pop off, and this low pressure will yank in a ton of low-level moisture. Will begin to build in tomorrow, and it will set the stage for a high-end environment for severe weather. Let's talk about tomorrow. There is a marginal risk for severe weather for 2 areas. One up here near a developing triple point, which is basically where a bunch of ingredients meet at one point just south or southeast of low pressure. Then you got more of a thermodynamic driven environment down here where you don't have as much kinematics, a lot of wind energy aloft to really put a spin to the atmosphere. It's developing, but you have more thermodynamics. But tomorrow is not the big deal. Okay, you do have a 2% risk of a tornado here in North Texas and Oklahoma, and then a very small section of southeast Kansas. This does include Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and then Wichita Falls, Texas. Okay, so there will be a chance for severe weather tomorrow, but there's a chance that storms might not even get going. But the big day is tomorrow. Is Friday. You got a massive enhanced risk. And I can almost guarantee you this is going to be like a bimodal kind of setup where you're probably going to have two areas of focus. One down here to the south, one up here to the north. The one up to the north is the triple point, right where the low pressure is. You will be lacking more thermodynamics, but you will have extreme high-end forcing, and you will have extreme kinematics. Forcing meaning you will have absolutely no trouble with storm development. None. Just due to the fact you're right near the low pressure. And that helps forcing with the storms, which means it develops the storms. Due to the fact that it's close to low pressure, these storms will be moving at very fast speeds too, which will be dangerous because if there's any kind of early storm mode with supercells, these tornadoes could be potentially moving at interstate speed. Okay? And then I think there's going to be a big threat down here to the south where, listen, I mean, even though you're not going to have as high-end kinematics as you are maybe up here, you're still going to have an impressive wind field aloft. And I say aloft, that's above our heads. But at the surface, it's going to be very windy down here too. Okay? I know somebody said, I wish you would make your cursor bigger. I might work on that here in the future. But sorry, I know a lot of times I just circle around. But I don't want this map to get too sloppy. But this area down here and then this area up here, I think there will be two separated areas, in my personal opinion. And that's not to mean that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a lesser threat into here, but I think you'll have a higher end threat on each side, or maybe just down here. So you have an enhanced risk of severe weather. That's a level 3 out of 5. You have a 30% risk. That means the enhanced means you have a 30% risk of severe weather within 25 miles at any given point in this red area. This also is at 30% hatched risk, which means you also have a 10% risk to see significant severe weather, which if you don't know what that means at day 3, that means it could be EF2 or higher tornadoes. It could be 2-inch diameter in hail, or it could be significant strong winds in excess of 65 knots or higher, which is around 75 miles per hour and mile per hour readings. So not only do you have the chance for severe weather, but significant severe weather. Don't ignore the 15%. You folks in the Ohio Valley, you could see some nasty weather overnight. Kentucky, even further in Kentucky, Tennessee, I think a nasty line of storms is going to move through for you guys a little bit later Friday night. Maybe it's the wee hours of the morning, Saturday morning. So let's talk about how it could evolve. And then we're going to take a look at the NAM. And please stay tuned for that because that's going to be, I think, is what's going to catch a lot of people's attention and really will give people an idea of how these storms could get going. But remember, all this is going to change. Thursday morning, here comes a low pressure. It's relatively weak over the Rockies. And it's kind of meandering around, not really gaining any strength. We're getting into Thursday evening. Here comes a lot of shower and storm activity right into here. This could be in the form of storms in Oklahoma, Kansas, maybe even Nebraska. Okay? I don't think tomorrow is going to be a big deal, though. This begins to eject across the plains, still not strengthening much. But then as we are getting into Friday morning, there will be ongoing convection. Convection meaning showers, storms, probably somewhere in this entire area. Trying to pinpoint exactly where will be difficult. But regardless, I think the worst of the severe weather cranks up around midday Friday. Then, watch as this number begins to drop, the millibars on the low pressure. This indicates this is strengthening a couple of millibars every 3 or 4 hours. And then we stop it for Friday afternoon. You got a 982 millibar low pressure right over southern Minnesota. You probably have intense storms ongoing in Iowa at this point, and then probably a developing line of storms all the way down to Arkansas, maybe western Tennessee, maybe even Mississippi. But the thing we watch for is if any supercells get going. Okay, and I'll show you what the NAM is showing here in a second. But you keep this going, this is going to bring a lot of weather into the late evening hours of Friday, even into all the way up to Milwaukee to Chicago. Might even bring some storms as far north as Green Bay. These will work their way through Indiana. Through Illinois, too. I don't want to ignore you guys. Illinois could have some bad weather. This will work their way into Indiana, all of Kentucky, eventually Ohio. these storms will pretty much remain intact overnight all the way down to maybe northern areas of Alabama. And then this works through, and I think a lot of strong winds will plague the areas of the mid-Atlantic, and I'll talk about that here in a second too. Now, we've been talking about this until the cows come home, the ingredients. What we do know is surface lows pulling through, and we'll probably start to get to the point tomorrow where we won't start to talk about the ingredients as much. But what we do know, a lot of surface moisture, dew points into the 60s, is supported for severe weather. These are dew points. You see these 60s, this kind of pool of moist air. Watch as it surges north. As it does, with the developing low pressure, moving very slow at first, as it really strengthens and gets a move on, we get into Friday morning, dew points into the 60s, all the way up into, I would argue, probably southern sections of Iowa. And then you get into midday Friday, dew points definitely into the 60s into Iowa. At this point, dew points into the 60s into Missouri, Illinois. One thing that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, dew points is part of the category of thermodynamics, okay? So dew points only in the 50s and 60s in Iowa, that's not a high-end thermodynamic environment, which means you're not going to have a lot of CAPE in the area. But you only need a little bit of both. And you mash them with a high-end climatic environment, meaning an intense wind field aloft, you are going to have enough oomph in the atmosphere for severe weather, fast-moving systems, fast-moving storm systems. And down here, plenty of moist air. That means the CAPE will be the highest down here. If you're wondering what CAPE is, that's storm fuel. Just think of it as that. We keep this going. Dew points rise into the 60s into Illinois. You'll certainly feel it into Illinois, into Indiana Friday night. It will feel humid all the way down to Kentucky, Tennessee. The atmosphere will be ripe for severe weather. Okay, next thing you look at is in response to the dew points, what kind of CAPE levels do you have? Okay, they build in Thursday. There's that triple point. This is surface CAPE. Not the best thing to look at, but we're going to show it anyways. And we'll talk more about the mixed layer, things like that as we get into tomorrow. But you got surface-based CAPE starting to inch close to 1,000 joules per kilogram. Some building down Texas, but there's not really much forcing for storms. You're getting into Friday morning. You already have CAPE building into the plains, Kansas, Missouri, and this really gets going into Iowa. And look at these CAPE values, over 1,000 joules per kilogram at the surface. Really going here, just outside this low pressure. So you have fuel. All this little area, this entire area right here is fuel to the atmosphere for all these other ingredients to thrive off of. Okay, so you got that there. I don't think you're going to have a ton of CAPE. I think you will to the south where you don't have as good as kinematics. But in this environment, you don't need a ton of energy in the atmosphere as far as CAPE. Okay, but one thing you're going to have a ton of is the low-level jet and the winds aloft. So we're getting into Friday morning. You already have a massive low-level jet stretching from Texas to areas of Canada. Okay, and everybody in between. I'm talking Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, all of Missouri, all of Arkansas, most of Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, okay, Iowa. Basically a massive 50 to 60 knot low level jet. That means winds about a mile up in the atmosphere, about a mile above where you're standing at the surface of the earth, are probably going at 65, 70, 75 miles per hour in mile per hour readings. You keep this going. You see where these isobars are circling? That is where your low pressure is. You keep this going. You go all the way to Friday late afternoon. You have a 60, 70 knot low level jet showing up. And it's consistently been showing up right into here, right where Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Arkansas and Mississippi all kind of connect. If you get any storms that get going here, they're going to be ripe for some nasty weather in here. All hazards, especially damaging winds and tornadoes. But with the low pressure, you're going to have severe storms that do pop up just south, southeast, and east of the low pressure. They're going to be very fast moving and quickly. I think there'll be a few hour period where they'll be supercell in nature, and then they'll quickly go into a linear kind of mode, like a line of storms that could be producing damaging winds. But I'm telling you, we're getting all the way into Friday night. You have This is going to be another high wind event for you guys in Kentucky. It seems like you've gotten that all year so far. It's going to be another one. Not just Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Tennessee. These are winds not at the surface, but like I said, about a few to several thousand feet above your heads, but they're going to mix with the surface. So I would argue you're probably going to have 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gust sweeping through this area, regardless of storms or not. And then I really think you could potentially have a high wind event for areas in the mid-Atlantic and the southern Appalachian Mountains. But let's talk about the NAM, and I'm going to zoom in for a couple areas. Okay, we'll start off Friday morning. A lot of rain, convection already ongoing in Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. You got areas of showers down here in Oklahoma, areas of showers. I think there'll be a lot of cloud cover, honestly. Okay, we keep this going. We're getting into Friday. At this point, it's around Friday, about 1 p.m. Central Time. A lot of convection down here, down here in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois. Okay. But check this out. As soon as you get to about 3, 4 p.m., look at these storms developing in Illinois. Look at these storms developing in Iowa. All these will have the ingredients to produce a tornado, especially if they take a supercell mode at first. You got storms firing up in northeast Texas, Arkansas. You keep this going. This evolves really quick. Okay? I'll stop it right here. This is around 4 p.m. You see these storms in Iowa? I'm gonna zoom in. Let's go on and start zooming into certain areas. You see these storms right here in Iowa. This could be producing a tornado. This could. I know this is a sloppy looking storm, but I'm telling you, low pressure's right here. I mean, it's snowing in portions of northwest Iowa with potential tornadoes in the other portion of Iowa. I might have just said Ohio, but of Iowa. Okay, nasty line of storms developing here. And you keep this going for Iowa, this quickly turns into, I'm talking about quickly. By the time you're into around dinner time, this is developing into a nasty line of storms with embedded tornadoes potentially in it. But just a huge issue with damaging winds with this. And this sweeps through the rest of Iowa. Let's take a look what Missouri could potentially look like. I'm going to just break it down state by state. What does it show for Missouri? Where you could have, morning convection, morning rain as you're getting to the afternoon. Bang, you got storm development. These could be producing damaging winds. They could be producing tornadoes. And then you have some storms further to the south where you have better thermodynamics, better moisture at the surface. And this quickly turns into a potent line of storms. And I'm telling you, damaging winds is the big threat. But tornadoes could be embedded in this line of storms. And check this out in Arkansas, northern Arkansas. It's kind of got that little bit of a look where it has almost a little hook right there. But these will form. And I really think they'll form before they get to Columbia, Missouri. But they'll blast through St. Louis. And with damaging winds, probably late. I wouldn't even say late. I would say right around dinner time in St. Louis. Now, this is going to change, okay? But this will blast through and cause some issues, okay? We'll go down to Arkansas. For you folks in Arkansas, what is the latest NAM show? Let's back it up. Arkansas, morning convection. This blob of rain moves out, and quickly the atmosphere destabilizes, and you get into 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And look at these storms all the way into northeast Texas. I mean, look at this storm in far northeast Texas. He's got that hook. This one does too, just southwest of Little Rock. These storms too. These could be rotating, okay? They could have rotating updrafts, okay? And all these storms right here can be dangerous in the eastern half of Arkansas. And these continue to move into areas of Tennessee, okay, northern Mississippi, and they will be producing damaging winds with an embedded tornado threat in this line of storms, okay? I would say it blasts through Memphis probably late Friday evening. And the entire rest of the state, western half of the state of Kentucky and Tennessee, probably late in the evening. They'll move in as early as before midnight and move out the night through the state. But you're going to have a severe weather threat down here in northern Mississippi too, okay? For my folks, let's check out Indiana, okay? Let's back this up a little bit, okay? In the morning, first off, look at these storms early on in northern Illinois. These will have some ingredients to produce severe weather. Even these storms in northern Illinois, this is a multi-state event, guys. I'm trying to, reiterate that. And these storms could produce severe weather into northern Illinois. And so watch out, Chicago. And this is before the main line sweeps through. Okay, this clears out, and then here comes this line. This is going to be a rocky Friday night from Illinois through Indiana and Ohio. These storms blast through central Illinois, probably around, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 10 p.m. It's going to be hard to figure it out. Okay, they blast through the state in a few hours. And then these start to knock on the door of like southern Indiana, all of Indiana, basically the western half of Indiana. Evansville hit, Indianapolis maybe right at midnight. These start blasting through Indiana, start moving through the entire state of Kentucky. Slam Cincinnati maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. They will probably begin to lose some steam at this point, and the NAM only goes out 60 hours. But intense line of storms blasting through the area, okay? And these will have a chance to produce damaging winds and also embedded tornadoes, okay? Also, what I want to show you guys is how much wind, how strong the winds can be with this, okay? This is already just for Thursday evening. You got 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts in Kansas and areas of Nebraska, southern Iowa, and then moving into western Missouri. This does nothing but increase. I mean, you're waking up Friday morning, you have an area of anywhere from 35 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts stretching from Oklahoma all the way to the Ohio Valley in the Great Lakes region. Okay, very windy ahead of the storms. And then look at this. Friday about midday, look at this area of very strong winds that begins to develop in response to a deepening low pressure to the north. Kansas City, you could have a period of 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts that blast through the city, and you guys might not even see a storm. Okay, and this continues. This blast through Missouri. This moves through Illinois, Indiana, and then it'll try to re-intensify maybe sometime Saturday morning. But another period of strong winds moves through Saturday morning. Very, very strong winds. It's going to be very gusty for at minimum 24 hours. And then this could potentially really increase based off the GFS Saturday morning sometime, where you might have a period of winds pushing 50 to 60 miles per hour at times for Kentucky and Ohio. And then look at this for West Virginia. Saturday could be an incredibly damaging wind day and really not even associated with so much storms, just very strong winds based off the GFS over this area of the southern Appalachian Mountains. So we got to watch this. It's going to be very windy up here in the Northeast too. Don't want to just ignore you guys. Strong winds for areas of Pennsylvania and the southern tier of New York State are certainly possible. And guys, not to just totally ignore the snow threats. Definitely want to show you guys that, and we'll jump to that really quick. But we definitely do have a snow event on our hands, and I'm doing all this on the fly. And let's see if we can go to the upper Midwest. There is going to be snow with this. Okay, let's back it up, and here it is. Here's the low pressure, but it looks like it's going to be mainly confined to the north. Okay, so Minneapolis, you could get some snow from this. The northern half of Wisconsin, UP and Michigan could get a lot of snow. Several inches of snow is possible. Heavy, wet snow. And it could sweep through. And by the time we get into Saturday night, I would say that it wraps up. But snowfall from this, based off the blend of all models, this is how much it's going for right now. The UP and Michigan could certainly get a big late season snowstorm from this. Certain areas could see as much as 9 inches of snow. Northern half of Wisconsin, more so just widespread 3 to 5 inches of snow. And, some snow's possible in the Dakotas also. Don't want to just ignore you guys. But we'll check out them. But, some heavy snow could fall in South Dakota also. Somebody can get anywhere from 2 to as much as 6 inches of snow. And I think Minneapolis will get accumulating snow out of this for your last day of March, first day of May. So that's all I got, guys. Hope that helps. We'll continue to keep you guys updated. God bless all y'all, and have a great rest of your night.